The darkest Batman story ever written. Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious Earth. Oh, I don't know how dark a Batman stories can get. I don't even know if this is part of the DC universe or if it's like some multiverse thing or maybe like some fan written stuff. I don't know what it is, but it's got more likes than the dude has subscribers, so it must have been good. And I mean, look at this. It says mentions of self-harm, blood, gore, explicit language. I ain't never seen a Batman that got any of them. I mean, well, would you say the Dark Knight had some of that, or any of those Christian Bale ones? I don't know, but check it out. Let's check it out.
1989 is arguably one of the most important years in the long history of Batman. In June of 1989, Tim Burton's Batman was released in theaters, and it was a huge commercial and financial success. Burton's Batman was dark, it was gothic, and it was a completely new look for the Batman that most people weren't used to. By '89, most comic fans were used to a darker look for the Batman, with such comics like The Killing Joke and Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, what the hell?
But for the mass audience, this wasn't the case. For a general audience that didn't read those comics, the campy 1960s Adam West show was the official version of Batman.
Oh my god.
The '89 Batman did prove to DC Studios that the general audience was ready for a darker, more realistic look at Batman. And while it's definitely goofy by today's standards, if it wasn't for the success of this film, we likely wouldn't have gotten later iterations like Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy or Matt Reeves' The Batman that came out just last year. It was really unfortunate when the terrible sequels to the '89 films went back to the campy and goofy style of the '60s. Luckily, though, the impact that the first film had was big enough that it didn't really matter. Audiences loved this movie, and they loved this new style for Batman. But what if I told you that along with the film, 1989 also saw the darkest Batman ever written? Far darker than even the comics and films of today. A comic that flipped Batman on his head and stripped away all the common tropes and themes we often think of with the Caped Crusader. That comic is Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious Earth. Written by Grant Morrison and illustrated by Dave McKean, Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious Earth follows Batman as he journeys the dark and decrepit halls of the asylum to quell a riot orchestrated.
And I've heard of one called like, what is it? The Batman Who Laughs or Joker Batman with a Smile? Oh shit. This fool done flip me. But damn, bro. I heard of a Batman called like the Joker Batman or the Laughing Batman or the Batman Who Laughs or something. I don't know. But it looked cool. I seen a picture of it.
Created by the Joker. Perhaps a familiar story to anyone who's a fan of the Arkham game series. This shouldn't come as a surprise, as the developers at Rocksteady took a lot of inspiration from A Serious House on Serious Earth when they were developing Arkham Asylum back in 2009. Arkham Asylum is not just a Batman story, however. Along with Batman's journey through the asylum, the graphic novel also follows the story of Amadeus Arkham, the asylum's founder, who eventually became one of its inmates. This was an interesting choice, as Amadeus Arkham is a fairly minor character in the Batman world, although his character has lived on in other characters, like Jeremiah Arkham in modern-day comics, and Mayor/Warden Quincy Sharp in the Arkhamverse, who thinks he's possessed by the ghost.
Is that his asylum?
Upon its release in October of 1989, the graphic novel garnered commercial and critical success. Admittedly, a big part of its success was due to its release being so close to the Burton film. Arkham Asylum is considered by many to be one of the best and most unique Batman stories ever told. If the panels on the screen have tipped your interest in even the slightest way, then I would ask you to please stick around, so you can experience this amazing story for yourself. But before we can do that, let's take a look at the amazing minds that came together to bring the story to life. Grant Morrison is one of the most influential names in comics today. Arkham Asylum was Morrison's first time working on Batman. They would go on to work on a lot of other DC projects, including Doom Patrol, All-Star Superman, and Final Crisis. They would also work on a lot of other Batman comics, including Batman R.I.P., Batman Robin, and Batman Incorporated. Morrison originally got the idea to set the story in the Asylum after reading about its entry in the Who's Who series. Morrison was fascinated by Len Wein's work on the history of Arkham Asylum in the Who's Who series. For some context, the Who's Who series was a sort of encyclopedia for miscellaneous DC characters and places. A lot of entries in the Who's Who series didn't have much information behind them, so Len Wein, the writer, had to improvise and come up with his own ideas for some things. Morrison decided to use the tragedy of Amadeus Arkham as part of the story. The subtitle, A Serious House on Serious Earth, was taken from the last stanza of Philip Larkin's poem, Church Song, which reads, A serious house on serious earth it is, whose bland air all of our compulsions meet, are recognized and robbed as destinies. After the success of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns and Alan Moore's Watchmen, Morrison wanted to take their series in a new direction that pushed the boundaries of comics and storytelling. The intention was to create something that was more like a piece of music or an experimental film than a typical comic book. Morrison wanted the graphic novel storytelling technique to stay away from the original hard-boiled, quote-unquote, left-brain take on Batman seen in comics and film. Morrison took inspirations from European cinema and psychological horror movies when they were creating the story. Morrison used psychological horror themes to depict how insanity works within the setting of the asylum. Morrison wanted Arkham Asylum to feel more like a dream than a standard American comic. Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland inspired a lot of the dreamlike elements in the story, and the work is mentioned a few times in the story itself. The story is woven tightly around a number of symbolic elements, which combine and recombine throughout, as if in a dream. The construction of the story was modeled after the architecture of an old house. The tale of Amadeus Arkham forms the basement. Batman's journey through the book is like moving through the floors of the house itself. The house and the head become one. So, with the groundwork for the story laid out, who was the one who was going to bring this dreamlike story to life and give visuals to Morrison's bizarre and surreal ideas? Well, look no further than Dave McKean. Dave McKean is an English illustrator, photographer, artist, graphic designer, filmmaker, and musician. McKean has collaborated with a number of authors, including Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore, Heston Blumenthal, Ray Bradbury, and Stephen King. McKean's most famous work includes the cover of the Sandman comics. McKean's surreal and otherworldly artwork is something straight out of the Thing of Nightmares, and I, for one, love it. I'm not lying when I say I have wasted literal hours looking at his massive collection of works. Along with Morrison, Arkham Asylum was McKean's first major breakthrough in the comic industry. Graphic novel success helped launch his later career. McKean's distinctive art style is what makes Arkham Asylum so memorable.
That looks creepy. It's
like Salvador Dali meets surreal realism. McKean chose to blend paintings, drawings, photography, and real-life materials to come up with the page designs. Arkham Asylum's art is something so unique. I have never seen anything even remotely similar to it in any other comic. If Grant Morrison's goal was to create a dreamlike experience, McKean was the perfect man to do the job. The original artwork was created using acrylic ink and pencil on heavy watercolor paper or board, and then a mixture of collage materials was added, from lace paper to wooden nails. The spreads were painted onto boards and then shot onto a 10x8 transparency paper. The same method was used to create the Sandman covers. Real materials were laid out on a light box and shot with a very narrow depth of field. Traditionally, these methods would be used to create covers, but McKean chose to use this to create the panels. Now that we've talked about the amazingly talented people that came together to bring this idea to life, let's finally dig into Arkham Asylum and see what makes it the incredible, grotesque, and horrifying story that it is. Now, I know I gave a content warning at the beginning of this video, but I'm going to give another quick one here. Some of the things that are going to be discussed here can be pretty deep and pretty disturbing. So, if that's something that bothers you, I would maybe stop here. So, with all that finally out of the way, here is Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious earth. But I don't want to go among mad people, Alice remarked. Oh, you can't help that, said the cat. We're all mad here. I'm mad, you're mad. How do you know I'm mad, said Alice. You must be, said the cat.
I'm freaking out, man.
Come here. Our story begins in the year 1901 with a young Amadeus Arkham bringing his sick mother, Elizabeth, some tea while she lies in bed. Amadeus' father has been dead for a number of years, and his mother has been unwell for quite a long time. He feels like a ghost walking through the halls of his frighteningly empty home. This was the first night Amadeus saw into the other world. The dark side, he calls it. He opens the door to see Elizabeth sitting up in bed, waiting for him. Amadeus tries to get her to eat something, but she says she's already eaten. A beetle walks out of her mouth. The beetle signifies rebirth. Elizabeth has lost all touch to reality and has been reborn in the other world. She is too far gone for Amadeus' reach. This sequence is broken up and fragmented into bizarre scenes with Amadeus and his mother. Every time we see Amadeus' story, it's coming from entries in his journal. This is all in the past. This is Amadeus remembering a distant memory of when he first saw that his mother had succumbed to her illness. Much like a distant memory, it's broken up and hard to follow.
That is cool.
We'll also
artwork.
later learn that Amadeus might not be the most reliable narrator. In fact, Amadeus might not even be the one reading us his journal. That probably sounds confusing now, but I promise it'll make sense later. We cut to modern day, where we see Batman meeting with Commissioner Gordon outside Arkham Asylum. Gordon tells Batman that a riot is taking place at the asylum, and that there's hostages on the inside. There have been demands for food and clothing, and one final demand before they let the last hostages go. Batman has to speak to the Joker to find out what this final demand is. We see next to the phone that the date is April 1st, April Fool's Day, the perfect day for the Joker to have taken over the asylum. The Joker tells Batman through the phone that if he wants the hostages saved, he needs to come to the asylum by himself. Batman asks what will happen if he doesn't come in. A strange scratching noise can be heard on the other end of the phone call.
Cool, bro.
The Joker says he has a young woman by the name of Pearl with him. That noise they heard was the Joker sharpening a pencil with a knife.
Fucking cool.
The Joker tells Pearl to open her eyes wide, and a horrible scream can be heard on his end. Batman begs him to stop, asking him to leave the poor girl alone. The Joker tells him he has half an hour to go in. Batman gives in and says that he's going to go into the asylum. You might have already taken notice of Batman's nightmarish design here. He looks more like a bat than a man. To me, he kind of resembles the nightmare bat you can see at the end of Batman Arkham Knight, with his pointed shoulders and freakishly long ears. In Morrison's original storyboard, he had Batman looking a lot more like his normal self in a more traditional costume. It was McKean's choice to depict Batman as a huge, hunched-over, shadowy figure. I think this Batman design fits perfectly with the nightmarish feel of this comic. Before he takes the plunge to the asylum, Batman confides to Gordon and tells him that he's afraid. He's afraid that when he walks through those doors, he's going to feel right at home with the other lunatics. Batman's mental stability has been explored in plenty of modern comics, but in 1989, it was kind of the elephant in the room no one dared talk about. The absurdity that a man dresses up as a bat and stalks criminals during the night isn't as insane as the men he hunts is a much debated topic among fans today. Morrison saw that absurdity and chose it to be the ultimate challenge Batman.
I'd say Batman's probably got one of the most fucked up. Because if he's stopping criminals, you know, there's no telling what he's seen. Like, you know? Like he's probably stopped people or gotten to people in the middle of like fucking killing someone or something, or doing something else or something, and then he's got to live with like, damn, I didn't get there quick enough, you know, that hangs on his shoulder. And then if you're the one hunting all that evil, bro, anytime something does slip by you, it's kind of like, fuck, man, I prevented all this, but I could prevent that. Like you start feeling like you're like you got to control all of it, and then more weight is on your shoulder, and it's not like you can tell anybody. The only person you could tell is your waiter or your butler, like the homie. And then you got to worry about, well, what if he fucking told someone? Man, I know he's family, he ain't gonna, but I don't know. Always having to keep your identity quiet too. And then you got all this money, all this fame, and all this everything going for you, but you know, you can't really be yourself. You got to hide everything. That's a lot, bro. That's a lot to have to take on your mental. And like I said, after watching your own parents get killed in front of you, bro. And then you got some fucking weirdo that's always planting booby traps all over the city. And then other people that it ain't just him, right? And Batman gotta stop all kinds of crazy people.
must face. So, with nothing left to lose, Batman makes his way to the asylum. Here's a bit of a fun fact. The original first draft for the script included Robin as Batman's sidekick. Robin would appear in a few scenes in the beginning, but remain behind with Gordon and the rest of the GCPD while Batman went to the asylum. He would have studied the history of the house and tried to help his mentor figure out the mystery. McKean felt that Robin did not fit into his artistic style.
Yeah, what game is that?
He thought about putting Robin in a trench coat briefly, but wisely decided against it. I don't really think Robin would have fit into this art style or the atmosphere of this novel, so ultimately I think it was a wise choice to keep him out. The story shifts back to the year 1920. Amadeus is fully grown and is finally returning home after his mother's funeral. His mother's mental condition only grew worse and worse. She ended her own life using a pearl-handled straight razor. You may have noticed the word pearl has come up twice already. Play a fun little game and try and see how many other times the word comes up. Amadeus is not going to let his mother's death be for nothing. He dedicates his life to helping those that are in need, just like his mother. Amadeus has a hard time sleeping in his childhood room. His dreams are haunted by the beating of wings and a barking dog. The next day, Amadeus returns to his wife and daughter in Metropolis. He works as a psychiatrist in Metropolis Penitentiary. There, an inmate by the name of Martin Mad Dog Hawkins is taken under Amadeus' care. Mad Dog is another creation of Len
You talk to me
Weins.
now?
The character has become synonymous with Amadeus Arkham and the origins of the asylum. Mad Dog is seen as a lost cause by the justice system. He's deemed to be too dangerous and beyond any possible help. Amadeus couldn't help his mother, as he was just a child with her mental problems. But it's not too late for Martin. Amadeus is not ready to let go hope for Mad Dog, and he will do whatever he needs to, so no one will ever end up like his mother did. With his new life mission, Amadeus returns to his wife and child to tell them that they are to move back to his family home in Gotham, where he will begin to convert his home to a state-of-the-art facility for the mentally ill. He is to name this new facility the Elizabeth Arkham Asylum Home for the Criminally Insane, after his late mother. At the front doors of the asylum, Batman notices a line of salt drawn around the entire facility. When he looks up, he sees the clown prince of crime looking back at him.
Yeah, that does look
The
cool.
Joker's design in the story has become an iconic look for him. His elongated
artwork?
chin and drawn back
Or that art
eyes give him
style?
the appearance of a clay mask rather than a human being. The Joker lets the hostages go like he promised, including the young Pearl, who has both her eyes intact. Batman's confused, being that he thought he blinded Pearl. But the Joker reminds him what day it is.
Whoa.
The Joker welcomes Batman inside while grabbing onto a very sensitive piece of him. One of the Joker's defining characteristics in this story is his underlying homosexuality. However, in Morrison's original script, it wasn't going to be so underlined. Morrison initially wanted the Joker to wear woman's makeup with black lingerie and stiletto shoes in parody of Madonna's music video, Open Your Heart. DC's editors removed this, believing that readers might assume that Jack Nicholson's portrayal of the character in the Batman film was received as a transvestite. I have so many thoughts right now, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, how many comic readers in 1989 would have gotten that it was meant to be a Madonna parody? I mean, I know Madonna was a huge hit in the 80s, but I can't really imagine that the Batman and Madonna fan bases are exactly intertwined. I think the joke would have gone over most readers' heads. Secondly, who in their right mind would have thought that Jack Nicholson's Joker was a crossdresser or anything like that? I mean, I understand that this comic came out really close to the release of the Burton film, so I guess people maybe would have thought it was a tie-in comic, but these are clearly such different characters. Like, that's clearly not Jack Nicholson, that's clearly not Michael Keaton. I'm not sure how anyone would have made that mistake. The Joker had been in comics for 50 plus years at this point in time. I very much doubt that anyone would have made that ludicrous assumption. Even if DC's reasons for removing the Joker's original design was insanely stupid, I'm happy they did it. I think lingerie and boots would have been way over the top. The Joker's sexuality has been a plot point in recent years. I personally don't mind that aspect of his character, but I think it works much better when it's played down, so you don't know if he's being serious or it's part of his joke. I think the underwear and makeup would have been a touch too far, and it would have taken me out of the story. Upon entering the asylum, Batman
it would have looked like he's trying too hard to be crazy.
The inmates have taken full control. there's fighting, there's screaming, there's people swinging from the chandeliers. It's a total hellhole. It's disjointed and confusing. All the text bubbles on this scene are taken from films, such as David Lynch's Blue Velvet and Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Psycho is actually referenced a few times in the story.
Whoa.
Batman meets a woman by the name of Dr. Ruth Adams, a
don't need to kill her,
psychotherapist
do
who
I?
has stayed behind for the riot to continue treating her patients. He also meets the asylum's administrator, Dr. Cavendish, who has stayed behind because he refuses to hand the asylum over. One of Dr. Adams' patients, Two-Face, is seen hiding under a desk after just having soiled himself. Dr. Adams explains that he has undergone a therapy that introduces new options to him instead of the traditional two. Instead of his two-sided coin, he was giving a six-sided die, giving him more options. Once that worked, he moved on to tarot cards that give him 78 options to pick from. Batman questions whether the doctor's methods are actually helping Two-Face. It's true that he's moved on from his Jekyll and Hyde persona, but now his identity is split into so many fragments, he can't even decide on simple things like when to use the bathroom. Is this really helping him? Dr. Adams says sometimes we have to pull down in order to rebuild. Batman's not convinced anyone can get help in the asylum, the Joker being a perfect example. Dr. Adams admits that even the Joker might be beyond treatment. She doesn't even believe that he can be defined as insane. She believes the Joker might actually have a kind of super sanity, or an extremely high perception of the surroundings. There's no real Joker. He rebuilds himself every day to fit his needs. One day, he's a crazy killer, and the next he's a harmless prankster. Currently, the Joker thinks he's possessed by the Baron Gede, the voodoo Loa. Baron Gede, or Baron of Criminals, is the enforcer of the Gede in Haitian voodoo culture. He was the first person to kill another, much like Cain was the first murderer when Abel.
I don't think he noticed me.
Victims and the abused pray to him to get revenge on those who wronged them. Morrison said that diagnosing the Joker with quote-unquote super sanity would go on to kind of haunt them for a few years. Morrison admits that it was kind of a lame attempt at deconstructing the Joker, and if they were to write the story today, they'd most likely say it was DID or some other form of multiple personality disorder. Some of the inmates start to grow
everybody
impatient.
on TikTok.
They want to kill Batman and rip off his mask. The Joker's able to calm them down, because he has something else in mind. The Joker wants to put Batman through the same tests he was given by the doctors. The Joker doesn't care what's underneath the mask. He wants to know why Batman puts the mask on in the first place. Dr. Adams suggests they start with word association. Mother, pearl, handle, revolver, gun,
Pearl,
father,
said it again.
Father, death, end, stop.
Why are you looking this way,
The story
you weirdo?
jumps back in time with Amadeus during the construction of the asylum. We see a statue of the Archangel Michael being installed. Amadeus compares his fight against the home to Michael's fight against the Great Dragon. And just like Michael to the dragon, Amadeus is determined to conquer his demon. In 1920, Amadeus traveled to Europe to speak to some of the greatest minds in psychiatry.
I'm gonna have to 1v1 him,
Carl Jung and Aleister Crowley. Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist who, along with Sigmund Freud, was one of the founders of psychoanalysis. Aleister Crowley was a fucking maniac who honestly might deserve a video in his own right. He was a philosopher, magician, poet, painter, novelist who found his own religion, it really was a cult, called Thelma, and he also practiced something called sex magic. I'm not too sure what that is. Upon returning to America, Amadeus receives a phone call from the hospital. Mad Dog has escaped.
Interesting.
As the night grows into the late hours, the Joker tells Batman that it's time for his real challenge to begin. He is to play a game of hide-and-seek in the asylum. He has to find four specific people by midnight. These four people being Scarecrow, Clayface, Dr. Destiny,
You're dumb. Oh, you would be that one.
If he fails to find his targets by midnight, the Joker's men will hunt Batman down and kill him. When Batman shows some resistance to the Joker's plans, the clown is quick to show him what will happen if he refuses to play. The Joker chooses Dr. Adams as his next victim, and Batman doesn't play along. With no choices left, Batman has to play the twisted game. The game ends at midnight. In a kind of shocking scene, Batman stabs his hand to shock himself out of the trauma he had just suffered with the Joker. This is a much more animalistic scene. The shocking scene is followed by a fucking terrifying picture of Norman Bates from Hitchcock's Psycho. An inmate is watching a classic horror on a TV while the Joker meets with the other inmates. I'm not lying when I say this picture of Norman Bates freaked me the fuck out when I first saw it. And I really don't frighten easily. Like, scary games and movies usually have no effect on me. But one thing that does freak me out is, like, distorted faces. The thing you might see in, like, the Mandela catalog. That creepy smile with the teeth plastered on top of Anthony Perkins' face just really freaks me out. The Joker's men are starting to grow impatient. They want to hunt Batman down now. The Joker, not exactly being a man of his word, says they'll pretend it's been an hour and the hunt begins. We jump back to Amadeus in the year 1921. He calls out for his wife and daughter, but gets no response. He begins searching around the home. He eventually finds his wife, along with their young daughter, carved in pieces. He finds the words "Mad" carved into his daughter's skin. Back in the asylum, Batman encounters his first target, Clayface. Instead of being made of literal clay, Clayface is just rapidly wasting away from lack of eating. He's described as AIDS with 2 legs. Batman makes quick work of him. Dr. Destiny is wheeling around the halls looking for Clayface. Batman sneaks up behind him and pushes him down the stairs. This is a really unforgiving Batman.
Unhuman things.
But so far, that's 2 out of the 4 down. He makes even better time by finding the Scarecrow, or so he thinks. It turns out it was actually the Mad Hatter just in Batman's head. The Mad Hatter is a bit different than his usual persona. This Mad Hatter, whose obsession with Alice in Wonderland actually has pedophilic overtones and is a child molester. We jump back to 1921 with Amadeus. Despite the gruesome murders of his wife and daughter, the Elizabeth Arkham Asylum for the Criminally Insane is officially opened. One of its first patients is Martin Mad Dog Hawkins. Amadeus treats him for 6 months. He's praised by his colleagues for his show of compassion in treating the man who killed his family. That is until the 1-year anniversary of their murder. Mad Dog is strapped down to receive his electroshock therapy. This time, however, Amadeus doesn't let go. He fries him, killing the man he once swore he would treat. After this, Amadeus starts hearing laughter from cells he knows are empty. Much like his mother, he's starting to slip into that other world. Batman finds a man strapped into an electrical machine named Maxi Zeus. In most mediums, Maximilian Maxi Zeus is a supervillain appearing in DC primarily as a minor Batman villain. He's depicted as a mentally ill former professor who is obsessed with Greek mythology and believes himself to be the god Zeus. Here, Maxi Zeus is an emaciated figure with messianic delusions who's obsessed with electricity and corporeophagia. And if you don't know what corporeophagia is, I probably wouldn't look it up. Let's just say it's something flies, dung beetles, and other insects partake in. Gaspar Saladino did the lettering in Arkham Asylum. Saladino utilized distinctive lettering to give characters their own fonts and speech bubbles. With their PCs. Batman is black and white, Maxi is blue and white with Greek font, and the Joker doesn't have speech bubbles at all. His speech is just painted in red. Amadeus' mental health continues to slip with every passing day. The voices and laughter are just getting louder. He starts self-medicating with Amida mushrooms. Amanita muscaria is a highly dangerous and immensely potent psychoactive agent. Some of the most common side effects of Amida mushrooms are disassociation and depression. It can also cause something called the Alice in Wonderland disorder. The Alice in Wonderland disorder is a rare kind of disorder that can affect your perception, making objects appear significantly larger or smaller than they actually are. This gives the person suffering from the disorder the feeling of being extremely large or extremely small. Just like Alice when she took the pills to become big or become small. Shit ain't working. Batman finds a trail of blood, leading him to his next and toughest challenge yet, the Dragon, Killer Croc. Batman stands no chance against Croc's strength. That dude looks crazy. And the Beast throws Batman out the window and onto the roof of the asylum.
Batman looks
Killer
dope,
Croc was originally drawn suffering deformities similar to those of Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man, although his final incarnation is more that of a human crocodile. Batman comes face to face with the statue of St. Michael with his great spear. Batman uses the spear from the St. Michael statue and stabs Killer Croc in the chest. Batman gets stabbed at the other end. Both are gravely wounded, but Killer Croc takes the Killer Croc stands in for the Dragon of Revelations. St. Michael bound the dragon to hell, just as Croc is bound to the cellars of the asylum. Even though he's gravely injured from the spear, Batman can't stop him. Batman eventually passes out from the pain, but when he wakes up, he finds Dr. Cavendish wearing a dress and holding a razor to Dr. Adams' throat. Dr. Cavendish was the one who freed the inmates. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said it's not even clear if Amadeus is the one reading the journal? Well, it turns out that Dr. Cavendish found the journals of Amadeus Arkham, and he's been living kind of vicariously through them. We go back in time with Amadeus. This is before his mother's death, before Mad Dog, or before the asylum. Elizabeth Arkham is haunted by a vision, beating wings.
I've already been down here.
She's haunted by the bat, the same beating wings that Amadeus heard in his dreams. Elizabeth's delusions have completely taken over her mind. Amadeus picks up the pearl-handled razor and puts his mother out of her misery. She didn't commit suicide. It was a mercy kill. He dons his mother's wedding dress and swears he will exorcise the bat that haunted his mother. After reading his journals, Cavendish takes it upon himself to pick up where Arkham left off. The spirit of Amadeus Arkham is locked in the halls of the asylum. The only way for his spirit to be at peace is for Cavendish to kill the bat. In his final moments, Amadeus uses his fingernails to carve into the floor of his cell while singing the Star-Spangled Banner. According to the Who's Who entry, Arkham died singing the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Morrison forgot and had him sing the Star-Spangled Banner. Although, given Arkham's condition, he could have really been singing anything. It didn't really matter. Cavendish was the one that gave us free. He used the riot as bait for that battle. Cavendish surrounded the asylum with salt so the spirit of the bat couldn't escape. Salt often believed to deter spirits from leaving the place. Cavendish, unknowingly, however, in a misguided effort to exorcise the spirit of Amadeus Arkham, he instead invoked the spirit of the bats that haunted the halls. It is April Fool's Day, after all. However, in his weakened state, Batman can't fight back, and Cavendish gets the better of him, getting on top of him. Batman pleads to Dr. Adams to do something. This is one of the only times I can remember Batman ever pleading to a civilian for help. Dr. Adams grabs the razor and slices Cavendish's throat, saving Batman's life. Adams is pretty shaken up after having just killed one of her former colleagues. Batman asks Dr. Adams if she still has Two-Face's coin. Batman takes the coin and starts asking his way into the Joker. Batman wants Two-Face to decide if he gets to walk. If he lands on the unmarked side, he walks free. If he lands on the scarred side, he dies. Two-Face flips the coin, and Batman gets to walk free. The Joker walks Batman out, and the GCPD storm in to take back order.
Like that?
It turns out the coin didn't land on the unmarked side. Batman was supposed to die. Harvey Dent transcends his role here and steps out of the game, ending it with a defiant act of passion. Why does Harvey decide to let Batman go? Was it from Dr. Adams' treatment, or was it getting his coin back, thus bringing him back together? The answer isn't exactly clear. I think it's more up to interpretation for the reader to decide for themselves. The Joker's role as a trickster slash guide
like that love-hate thing
is no more apparent than here, where he seems happy to let Batman
You don't want them
go.
dead, but you want to do better than them.
The Joker's work is done. He has fundamentally broken and remade his old enemy again. This is where the story ends. I absolutely love this story. I've read a lot of Batman comics, and this stands up there with one of my favorites by far. Upon its release, Arkham Asylum, a serious house on Sirius Earth, was a smashing success. It sold close to 500,000 copies by 2004.
Damn.
Outlets like IGN, the Rolling Stones, and the Washington Times
comics.
praise it for its unique take on Batman. Now, that's not to say that Arkham Asylum got no negative criticism whatsoever. While almost everyone praised McKean's artwork, some criticized Morrison's writing, calling the story overly complicated and sometimes hard to follow. Before being published, Morrison actually passed the original script to some professionals in the industry, and many felt that the story's heavy symbolism and character choices were a bit pretentious and laughable. And while I definitely wouldn't go that far, I do agree that the book can definitely be hard to follow. It makes sense to blame Morrison, seeing as they were the writer, but I'm not sure that's actually their fault. Looking back at Morrison's storyboards, it seems they had a much different look for the comic they initially wanted. It seems originally Morrison had a much more clear-cut and concisive story that they wanted to tell. Dave McKean was not Morrison's original choice to do the artwork. Originally, Morrison wanted Brian Bolland to do it. Bolland did the artwork for The Killing Joke, but he was busy working on something else at the time, and Morrison ended up with Dave McKean for the art. Morrison and McKean actually ended up clashing for the development of the story quite a lot. The two actually had a lot of creative differences as far as developing this comic went. Morrison wanted the art to be more concrete and clear like his storyboards were. McKean wanted his art to be more abstract. McKean actually chose to ignore a lot of Morrison's original script and even made story changes without Morrison's approval. Morrison wanted
That's
the panels to
fucked up,
have all
bro.
the same style as most comic books were illustrated at the time, but McKean seemed to be dead set on his vision of what he wanted the book to look like and was unwilling to change no matter what. When the 15th anniversary edition came out, Morrison saw an opportunity to show off the original story and started putting the annotated version of the script. The annotated script clears up a lot of confusion about the story. The annotated script is filled with a bunch of Morrison's notes about the symbolism and where they got their inspiration for some of the aspects of the story come from. Starting after the 15th anniversary, every single Arkham Asylum comic has the annotated script printed on the back of it. McKean, on the other hand, felt that it was necessary to ignore Morrison's script. McKean thought Morrison's original script was too much like everything else was out at the time. McKean wanted to use Morrison's story to create something that had never been seen before. Even if that's the case, I have to say it's still weird to me though that an artist is making like wholesale story changes to the story without telling the writer. I can't really remember any other time I've heard that. So while McKean might have a point, I don't know. It's a little weird to me. And I do have to say, after hearing both sides of the story, I'm kind of split. I mean, it is definitely true that the comic can be hard to follow and confusing at times. The story tends to jump back and forth all the time without exactly telling you what time it is. And even after reading the comic multiple times, I still didn't understand some things until I read the annotated script in the back. And after seeing Morrison's original ideas, I think I would have liked to have seen their original script or original idea for the visuals a bit more. But, at the same time, it's because of McKean's artwork that makes this comic so memorable. There's so many hidden little Easter eggs on every page that you can read the story 100 times and find something new every single time. It's a shame McKean and Morrison clash so much over this story. They are both two incredibly creative people that unfortunately just could not see eye to eye on this occasion. It would have been amazing if they collaborated on more projects together, but both have gone and done bigger things since then. Morrison admitted that a big part of the book's success was due to the fact that it came out so close to the Burton films, people kind of assuming that it was a tie-in comic. But that doesn't really matter. No matter what the reason for Arkham Asylum's success was, it still went on to become one of the most beloved Batman stories of all time. And considering how many great Batman graphic novels and comics there are, the fact that this story still stands the test of time is really something big. When you're compared to things like Nightfall, Death in the Family, The Killing Joke, The Dark Knight Returns, that really is a testament to how amazing so many people felt this story was. While doing research, I was actually really shocked to learn that there's actually a sequel in the works. At the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con, Morrison said that there was a sequel being developed. Not much has actually been revealed about this project since then, but in October of 2022, Morrison did say that the project was currently on hold due to their involvement in the Brady show. So, weirdly enough, despite coming out over 30 years ago, this story might not be over. Morrison has said, though, that McKean will not be returning to do the artwork. I think whenever a writer, an artist, or just a creator sets out to create something like this, a choice has to be made. How much story are you willing to sacrifice in order for the art? I don't think the answer is very clear. I think it's a much tougher choice than you would think. On one hand, I love McKean's artwork, but on the other, I almost would have rather to see Morrison's original idea. Again, I feel pretty split about it. Honestly, I would like to hear what you guys think. Do you think McKean was right in overriding Morrison's choices and creating something so memorable? Or would you like to have seen a more clear story than what we got in Morrison's original storyboards? I'd love to know what you guys think down in the comments below, and seriously, thank you guys for watching this. I got the idea for this video, and it's been really fun to make. This was an instance where actually researching the creation of this comic was kind of more fun than actually reading it. There were so many interesting facts I learned. It was really fun to put together, and I really want to do this. So if you enjoyed this, if you liked this video, please give it a like, and please stick by because there's
I'm
going to
about
be
to
plenty
play
more
with them
like
a little
it.
bit.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. This has been Into the Depths, and thank you for watching.
Not gonna respawn right here. Damn, bro. I wonder how he got out of there, or what even got him into the into Arkham Asylum. Why was Batman in there? Or was he just taking out fucking the patients there? That'd be a little bit fucked up if he like broke in there and started wiping them out. I mean, I get it, but I don't think you can do that, Spidey. Or Batty. Bats. That's what they call them, right? Bats. No. Bro, I keep getting lost on how the fuck to get to the... It's not there, is it? Is it that way? I don't think so.